Hey, everybody. Okay. Expect a few little bumps along the road here. Welcome to the all-new Yard Sign. It is Monday night. It is so exciting to be back, everybody, in our new studio. Round of applause, guys, in the back. Come on. We don't have an audience yet, but hopefully soon enough we'll have an audience. I'm your host, as always, Jonny Torres. Thank you so very much for watching. I cannot tell you how inspired, excited, motivated I am to be back into this beautiful, amazing studio. Thanks to Cordone and the team at Bake More Pies. Just wait till you see the guys. And of course, we have an amazing lineup of topics for you tonight, as you can see right there to my left. Police ambushed in Los Angeles. No big surprise. We'll break that down as to why and how, and unfortunately, this continuing to happen in various degrees across the country. Also, Bloomberg's millions, especially right here in Florida. This guy just won't go away. Bloomberg determined to try to take down Trump. Apparently, there can only be one billionaire. And he's going to dump I believe it's about $100 million into Florida. Middle East peace agreement, the Trump campaign, the Trump administration, making huge headway in bringing peace across the Middle East. Anibal is going to take us to the attic for that one. And for our final topic, Florida reopening. Man, we've had lots of friends with restaurants, bars, other types of venues that have been hurting since March. It is way overdue that we get this state reopen, and we're going to talk about exactly how that's going to happen over the next few weeks. All right, let's go ahead and turn the camera over to our new studio and tonight's cast. Here we go. Boom. From left to right, we've got Chris VerKuilen. What's up, buddy?
I am very happy to be back here in the studio.
Hold on a second. Got my mics backwards here. All right, go ahead.
So I was just saying, it feels great to be back in the studio and be able to converse with these guys in a normal conversation, as opposed to trying to trip over Zoom. Who gets the microphone at that point in time. So this will be a good day. I'm very excited for this.
Yeah, let me go ahead and throw up your name tag. Oh, see, you were sitting on the other side, and I told you to move, so that's my bad. All right, there we go. Chris VerKuilen, and sitting next to him, and Mr. Joe Wicker. Hello, buddy.
Hey, guys, how's it going?
Let me see. Oh, no, that's not the right button.
It's not the
that's
right
not
button.
that's not the one I meant to.
No,
that's not either. Man, this sound effects board just doesn't like you. There we go. Joe Wicker, everybody.
There we go. Radio check. Got it.
We're blaming you.
We're on the net.
We're blaming you.
Hey, comms always go down at the.
Oh my gosh.
For the best times.
And on the far right, literally, metaphorically, philosophically, is Anibal David Cabrera.
Some days. What? Hi guys, it's good to be back in the studio talking to you guys, looking at you guys, actually being able to
Socially distanced. Socially distanced.
I'm the only one.
Yeah, they took about, in case anybody's wondering, they took about 20 tests before they came in. Let's just.
That is very true.
I sorted all the COVID
Swabs
tests.
of all kinds.
And we've actually developed. So, all right, well, let's see. Hold on. I still got Chris's.
A lot of visuals today in today's
I know, yes, but again, where there's bumps in the road. It's a new studio. There's going to be things to figure out, but the important thing is that you guys look amazing. All this is incredibly exciting. It's nice to be back in our old/new home because even before, a lot of people don't know our studio was actually here at Bake More Pies. It was just in a different part of the building, and that was a great studio. But this is a Mag Daddy studio. This is a pretty amazing place. So thanks again to Bake More Pies and Cordone for allowing us to be here. Guys, let's go ahead and let's start with the first topic. Police ambushed in Los Angeles. And of course, no shortage of this kind of violence in Los Angeles, especially given the current environment across the country. These police officers, I believe, are in critical condition. Does anybody have a kind of an update on that?
I thought they were both out of surgery.
Out of surgery at 11 p.m.
Critical but stable, I think, is what they said.
Okay.
But they're both out of surgery, I think.
So the crazy thing is, I guess it was all captured on a security camera, right? Yep. And so they, at least from what the video shows, is somebody literally going up to a police car. Yeah. It looks like a police SUV. And unloading, basically on these two officers.
There's $100,000 reward out for that guy's. I'm assuming it's a guy.
Any information to lead to that person's capture.
Arrest, which, you put $100,000 on somebody, and somebody's friends ratting you out. No loyalty amongst thieves. I guarantee you there's somebody in Compton right now that's getting ready to rat them out.
Not to say that.
That's where it happened in Compton, California, I think, right?
I don't know the location, but I do agree with you.
Yeah, it was in Compton.
It wasn't Compton?
Yep.
I will agree with you that that's a pretty large sum, and it's probably going to be
ratted out.
Someone's going to say something very quickly, and just the demeanor, the way the person ran away, how he walks, how that person.
They had a getaway car. They had a getaway Mercedes sedan waiting for them after they finished the deed. So there was someone else in the deal.
Wow.
Well, that's quite a stylish getaway car.
Depends on what year it was. A lot of the 94s and earlier, a little bit more boxy. And
I saw a post where some of the cops, I think, were basically referencing the speed at which the event happened, and it coincided with the protest that took place outside of the ER. And it was kind of like, hey, this was connected.
And that's the second half of this story, is that once the information was released of what hospital they were at and they were being treated, some protesters went there and were protesting and saying out loud, "Let them die. I hope you die." And it's just, and they were, from what the report said, that they weren't allowing people to get into the hospital, and they had to close the ER.
They were trying
wing.
to get into the hospital. Yes.
Yeah. And so it's just another layer of I will say personally, disgust when it comes to that. I can understand you not agreeing with the other side, or you don't like the idea of, and that's why you're protesting. But to go to a hospital and say those words, it's more telling of what kind of side that group is.
If you want, cops that commit crimes, if you want them brought to justice, there's nothing about shooting innocent people. Just they're doing their jobs.
Correct.
That advances that objective. Nobody wants to see dirty cops, but just shooting random police isn't going to do anything.
Well, and the terrible thing about all of this is not only the fact that you have the ambush happen in the first place, a horrible, terrible tragedy, but then you just pile on with the protests happening at the hospital, where they were refusing to let ambulances in and out. I believe anybody to come in and out of that kind of a situation. If you don't mind, pull the mic a little closer to you there. But of course, as this news came out, I shared a tweet from the LA Sheriff's Department, describing the fact that they couldn't get into the emergency room or out of the emergency rooms. And they were asking these protesters, obviously, to do the right thing and get out of the way. But again, who do you put this blame on? And to me, whether they condemn the violence, whether they, obviously come out and say, hey, we had nothing to do with this. To me, this falls on Black Lives Matter.
Absolutely, it does.
It's how could it not?
Well, when you have this kind of rhetoric, all these condemnations of police actions, no matter how justified the shooting was, and let's get to the point. After this a dozen times in this program, there are 99.5% of all these police shootings where people are, the police are having to kill people because they're dangerous to the public. They are justified, and people cannot grasp the concept that, it's one or the other. Either you have a police officer who's there upholding the laws that we as society have agreed upon, die, or you have a criminal who is endangering others, die. It's unfortunate people have to die, but that's what happens. It's part of life.
Well, because the video comes out, and the video always tends to start, after the initial encounter.
14 seconds.
Yeah, and then it's just showing a couple of minutes of what's happening after the fact, and then it's like, and then the outrage starts and the protest starts, and then when it takes time for information to trickle in, then you find out, okay, this individual had a warrant, they discovered the warrant, they stopped the individual, they refused, they fought, they grabbed the cop's gun. All this information that leads up to show some of these events being justified, you don't get that information in the beginning.
No, and people don't even care afterwards. I was talking to some people yesterday on the internet, as I should not do, it's a waste of time, that still had no idea that Jacob Blake was there after he had a restraining order filed on him for sexual assault, and that he was trying to steal the woman's car, and he had raped her allegedly and was not allowed to be there. And then he pulled a knife on the cops, and they asked him to drop it. They had no idea. They thought that he was breaking up a fight still, weeks and weeks into this, after all this information's been spilled. And they don't care to learn.
And then they get upset when it goes to trial, or it goes through the first round of seeing if this can even be brought to trial,
Yeah.
and it comes back as no, it was completely justified, or there's other circumstances that were never released to the public, and then people get all upset again when they should have been more focused on the actual information given to, like, allowing there to be time to break out what actually happened.
Well, and
because I'm not
unfortunately,
a
it's
lawyer.
politicized.
Yeah.
And, what sucks is it's politicized now. It's just politicized, and that's because it's an election year. But if you remember the Michael Brown situation, and that was during the Obama presidency. But the Obama DOJ, I think, still headed at that time by Eric Holder. But
Yes.
but either way, the Obama administration's Department of Justice looked into that and found that police officer was a justified shooting because of all the things that happened. But it's like people don't even care. I mean,
He's
it
still a poster boy for BLM today,
Yeah.
despite reaching into the car,
Yeah.
taking the cop's gun,
Yeah.
firing it, and charging the cop afterwards. People still don't care that Mike Brown was, justifiably shot.
People still don't care when they put Che Guevara,
Che Guevara.
Che Guevara t-shirts
on t-shirts on. They have no idea what they're talking about. They have no idea what that monster did to a
Right.
society. And it's like, for a lot of Hispanics, it's like you putting a Hitler shirt on. That's how intense that is.
But the
for
sad
a lot
part
of people.
about all that is because you have to assume, if you want to be generous, you assume that a lot of protesters, they think that they're a part of a cause, a just cause, right? They want to be a part of something. They think they're a part of something that's just. And there are those circumstances that happen, albeit rare, but there are those circumstances that require justice against a police officer. But what sucks to me about all this is that BLM as an organization really has been completely co-opted by the radical left. They're being used. You've got young people out there that are getting charged with trespassing and rioting and getting arrested and their lives potentially being ruined. They think they're a part of something that has some righteous, element to it, a moral cause of sorts, when in reality they're being used for political purposes during an election year by the left.
No, it's plain as day.
Well, and do you guys feel that is this something that's going to escalate from here, or is this kind of like, oh, that's kind of the line there? I mean, LA, again, notoriously more violent, I would say, than most of the country, maybe right up there with Chicago. Do you see more incidents like this happening, or is this something that hopefully won't happen again for some time?
Well, we have elections every 2 years in this country, right? Basically, we have nationwide elections every 2 years. And at every state level, you have a varying schedule. And then, of course, every 4 years, we have a nationwide presidential election. I think you're going to see, and I know I saw a chart once where they showed kind of like the search engine data on BLM itself, and it spikes in 2018, and then it spikes in 2020. I mean, it's still a relatively new movement, but I think what you're going to see is basically right around election time, this is going to get ginned up again, and it's used by a political party to gain power. And like I said, I mean, some young people's lives are being ruined, and some people are dying over it.
Many people have, I think more people have died from the riots and the protesting that the BLM has been conducting than have been shot by police this entire year.
Because I think in 2019 it was like nine black men and 14 white men, I think, or something like that.
Nationally.
Nationally in 2019 that were unarmed. So, and even though most of those were justified anyway, but just even unarmed.
Yeah. So I think what's going to happen, and BLM has been around, the larger, and I use this differential. Capital BLM has been around since the Obama term.
Yes. Yeah.
So it's not like this is a new thing under the Trump administration. Now, for me personally, I agree with the lowercase BLM. Completely understand it, completely agree with it. I understand the situation. I understand their position and a lot of people and minority communities' positions on that. However, I think the larger organization, capital BLM, is as far socialist Marxist as possible. You
said they are.
You do an inch, you scratch the surface just a little, and you see the absolute tyranny that they would want to happen. They do not care when it comes to anyone's lives. They only care about their position and their movement as an organization that has raised hundreds of millions of dollars and are being used to do things atrocious in this country. And so I think this is a moment in time where the country will see it and probably back off depending on how quickly they find the individual or individuals that participated in this heinous attack.
This is a regular occurring thing. I mean, this happened in Dallas a few years ago as well. I'm going to push back on you a little bit as far as the justified feeling of, lowercase BLM. I think under the premise, if the shootings that people are being told are unjustified, were unjustified, that would be okay. You can feel like you're being put upon as a minority in the U.S. But because there are very, very few exceptions to that most of them are justified, the police shootings are justified, that people should not feel as if they're put upon. I feel there's nothing more harmful to a young minority person than being told they're being hunted, they're being put upon, they're being subjugated, and that's not the case. I think there's very scanty evidence, if any, not evidence to the contrary, that that's the case. So I think that narrative needs to be busted. People in minority communities need to realize that they're being lied to, and that narrative is false.
And I'll push back a little because I do believe minority communities understand that the narrative is being grossly over-exaggerated. I mean, a poll recently said that 80% of African-American individuals in African-American communities either agree with the current standard of policing or want more policing. So we're looking at the Twitter of a group that is louder than any kind of voting block it could ever have. I'm thinking less than 15% actually believe in what's going on. The comment that I'm making, why I use the difference between lowercase and uppercase, is because a lot of African and other minority communities believe that when they say Black Lives Matter, they mean all lives of the Black community, not just those that are being taken from in regards to police officers or from the.
That's agreeable,
and that's why I can agree with that. Also, I agree that a lot of African American lives are in jeopardy every single day, not just from the police, but from their own communities. And these are the communities that are asking for more policing. They're begging for it, but yet you have people that don't want any policing whatsoever. And we see this now out of New York, the group that got arrested for destroying. They're actually starting to prosecute these individuals. It was 15 white Anglo-Saxon upper middle class children that are the ones that are doing this, and they're not speaking for the African American community. Right, they're not doing it at all. Or you see a woman in an SUV, a Black woman in an SUV, gets stopped in front of a protest in the middle of the road, and she's cursing out a group of nothing but white people. And they're the one. And they say, "Oh no, we're fighting for your rights."
That's what I'm saying. It's been taken over by these, leftist white liberals, which they really suffer from they don't suffer from it. They perpetuate this racism of low expectations. Mm-hmm. Like Black people need these white liberals to come in and help them and everything. It's like, look, I mean, I think most people would agree that there are some legitimate grievances that Black people in America have because of the experiences that they've had in the past, dating back a long time, but even maybe, recently.
And we can recognize that.
And you can recognize that and try to advocate for real change. But what this has become is just, it's off the rails here. I mean, it's just leftist, militant, anarchist political activity. And in my opinion, again, I think it's fully politicized at this point, and I think we're going to see a lot of it completely go away once the election's over, one way or the other, and then it'll probably revert back to what you're saying, which is the people that are actually about the cause and the movement, that are there for the right reasons, they'll probably continue working. But these young white college kids out in the streets, I mean, they're going to go back home when it's over.
And what upsets me the most is these aren't people that are volunteering their time at Boys and Girls Clubs. No. These aren't people that are volunteering their times to help kids read in the inner city. These are not kids. These are not people that are going to the food banks and helping out. They're not doing anything.
No, and they're taking
selfie pictures, and a lot of people got called out for this. That they get called out for taking these pictures and everything else. So if you want change, and you're in a city, most of those cities are Democrat controlled. Mm-hmm. So if you're calling for political change in your city, whether it be through the police department or the city council or the mayor's office, they should be calling for the resignation of those individuals, but they happen to be Democrats, so they're not. They're trying to blame Trump. Good job, Hector, for referring back to the 1986 leftist youth movement that basically turned into the Weather Underground that started bombing police stations back in the late 69 through 70s. So yeah, this is a repeat. My father has told me before, and other people have said, that we're just seeing a repeat of history. People get upset, they get angry, and things start going haywire, and then the FBI has to crack down on what's going on. And then you see it start to die down again.
All right. Well, thank you so much to everybody for watching The Yard Sign. Jonny Torres here, coming to you live from our brand new studios at Bake More Pies. Again, that's obviously a heavy topic to start on, but we do appreciate you for watching. And as Anibal just showed there, we are following your comments. So please send us your comments or questions there. And if you don't mind, give us a like and a share so that we can reach more people as we reach and are getting closer to this November election. One of the big news coming out over the weekend, and actually we were at the Florida Federation of Republican Women's Conference, Anibal and I, and the executive director of the RPOF was telling us how Michael Bloomberg has decided to get involved in this general election, committing about $100 million to use just in Florida. Anibal got some of the poll numbers together, which we'll go over in just a second, but we know that there's obviously a rivalry here between Michael Bloomberg and Donald Trump. Bloomberg has obviously made it very well known that he doesn't like the president and that he, wanted to challenge the president as the Democratic candidate. Guys, do you feel that, one of the things Anibal and I talked about behind the scenes was, is this money too late? The race here in Florida got really, really tight, but is it one of those things that all of a sudden, is it going to make a difference with, 50 or so days left before the election?
So I'm going to ask this question, since you're more involved in politics, the finance laws a lot better than myself. How is it we allow people, so if I want to give a campaign money, I can give $5,000 max. How can Mike Bloomberg say he's going to give $100 million? And this is somehow, even though it's filtered through other organizations and people, how is this ethical? How is this legal? Is there not a way we should cap these kind of things from
Well, you're going down. So election law, and we don't have any election law attorneys here, but it's a First Amendment issue. So the ability of a person to spend their own money towards political advocacy gets into the First Amendment when you start trying to outlaw that. But you were talking about politics. I would say whether it's going to make a difference or not, I know that there's going to be some happy ad buyers, some happy consultants, people, because you spend money fast, you're probably not getting the bang for your buck. $100 million is $100 million. I mean, that's a lot of money on TV. I mean, that's what Rick Scott spent his entire election, I think. So when he first ran for governor and had to spend money all over the state, one thing I will say about that is going to make an impact. Probably some, but you can only cover up a candidate's flaws so much, and there is a diminishing return when it comes to, money that you're spending on something like TV. I mean, you can only spend so much money and still expect to get some votes. So does it move the dial a point or two? I don't know, maybe, but there's going to be a diminishing return there at some point.
I have to agree with Joe. I think a lot of this is going to go to ad buys. So a lot of news networks or local networks are going to get a lot of money. A lot of consultants are going to get paid out. And I think that might be the gist of it. Because if this was a viable way of spending money to get votes, then it wouldn't be Joe Biden. It would be Bloomberg on the ticket instead of Joe. So who wasn't doing anything before the primaries that ended on his side. So yes, I agree with you that it would help a little bit, but we are so far into this cycle already. It is very difficult to find it. If anything, this shows how afraid the Democrats are when it comes to Florida.
The fact that they went to Michael Bloomberg and said, "Hey, need to hook your boy up with $100 million in Florida."
Yeah,
that says something. Why did they decide to spend $100 million in Florida? They obviously believe that, and Florida is a swing state, but they obviously believe that this could be, critical.
Well, especially when, the news had just come out that Biden actually now has somewhat of a fundraising lead, depending on how you kind of spin the numbers. And so for Bloomberg, you got to wonder if this is maybe just a publicity play. Is Bloomberg going to maybe try to go for mayor again of New York or governor of New York, right? But why now? Why when they're seemingly, or at least allegedly, not having any trouble fundraising, what it really tells me, obviously, is they're worried about Florida, which is exciting. And props to, everybody from Joe Gruters on down, who's been working really hard this election cycle, and I got to see some of those people over the weekend. But it's a testament to their work, and what they're doing is working. Everything from their Hispanic outreach, the African American outreach. I mean, it's hitting on all cylinders. And I think Bloomberg's commitment here, I think, says a lot more so about what's being done here in Florida on the Republican side than it is what's not being done on the Democratic side, which by all accounts, they're not doing anything.
Nope. Yeah. They're doing text banks from what I've heard.
Yeah.
And I mean, like you were saying, this shows, you see the figures coming out from the RPOF and from the national GOP about how many calls are being made, how many doors are being knocked, how much voter contact is being made. And you have to pour in $100 million to even compete with that. But good luck. As a wise man once said about a certain place, this is MAGA country.
Well, I'll tell you what, I saw one of the Joe Biden videos. I forget what channel it would have been on. I think it was over the weekend when I was trying to watch SEC Network or something like that.
Let's not talk football. Let's not talk football.
But the Biden commercial, here's what I'll say about them, though. They make him look like normal, like a normal candidate, and there's no stumbling. It's all well done. I mean, they're good video. I mean, if you're going to run a campaign video, they're good campaign videos. But what actually stood out to me was I was like, wow, that doesn't seem like the guy that we see on the campaign trail. I mean, just because it's so well put together, he looks like a normal, well put together candidate. Whereas on the campaign trail, it's just like one gaffe after the next. He's just a disaster. It looks bad, sounds bad. It's all bad,
Well, go ahead,
Zoom call Joe Biden.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. I will say this. I think they are really scared. And I was going to go into the numbers a little bit, but the numbers that are coming out of Miami-Dade and Broward County are fascinating to see. That
was it 50%?
55%.
55%
of Hispanics, of just Hispanics will be voting for Trump, and then the rest will be voting for Biden. That number is astronomical when it comes to that. It's a number
what do you think's driving that? Because normally any type of socialist platform gets Hispanics going because they've got real world experience with Venezuela and Cuba and go on down the list. I mean, what do you think's generating 55% support?
I think it's the China talk, the tough on China, the wanting to get our jobs back, that is really engaged in the Latin community. I'm very surprised with it. I would have thought socialism would have been more of a hit, but really it's the fact that Trump is one of the only people that are pushing back when it came to China and actually going forward with that. I'll also say that his push on immigration is a big one. Also, if you're already here, you're already a voter, everything else, then odds are you followed the path to become a citizen. So you yourself get upset when other people
Democrats
are
really
not.
Miscalculated the immigration thing, didn't they? They just assumed that if you're an immigrant or connected to immigration, one generation or two generations, would be okay. That somehow you're okay with illegal immigration when it's quite the opposite.
And I think a lot of people miscalculated that one. They miscalculated the black vote. They miscalculated the LGBT vote. A lot of these groups and communities that forever were on the Democrat side are really starting to pull.
For granted. Yeah, Democrats took them.
And that's the thing, though. As soon as the Democrats focused on and again, this might be what makes them win. I'm really concerned about this. Is that once Democrats started focusing on the suburban white female, is when their numbers started to go up. And Trump is doing really bad with seniors over 65. Those are two groups that I think need to be focused on, or at least more money needs to be spent on those demographics.
Well, especially here in Florida. I mean, with the senior vote, you can't give that up. I mean, we're still.
The BLM protests, I think, are going to impact the white suburban women. I think that's going to
and seniors. They're both people that are disadvantaged as far as defending themselves.
But that is how Obama won, though. Obama won by getting a large majority of the white suburban women.
And then Trump won because of the lower numbers of the African American vote that came out.
But Trump also won because there was a whole group of people that voted for Trump that had never even voted before. And that's what people forget about polling.
Yes.
If people poll, a good poll is going to be a poll that knows that you're going to vote. There's some history behind you. You're a very valid data point, right? Mm-hmm. But with the Trump election in 2016, all these people came out that had never even... So you can't poll somebody that previously wasn't even registered.
Yeah.
I mean, because you don't assume that they're going to vote. And then all of a sudden, all these people register and they come out to vote for Trump. And so now the question is, do those Trump voters, is what they're called, do they come back out in 2020? Because they have to.
I think this is going to be a new patch. The largest voting bloc are non-voting citizens. Yeah. That is the largest voting bloc in the country. And when they see their neighborhoods getting torched, when they see their communities being destroyed, I think that is going to be the surprise vote that we're going to see increases in white males. We're going to see increase in Latin. We're going to see increase in Black going towards the Republican side. I have no idea when it comes to the polling on suburban white women. I'm not a suburban white woman. I can't say anything about that.
Don't say.
If you're a 40-year-old guy who was not registered to vote in 2016, or you registered just in 2016, you may not even show up in the polls.
No,
you've only voted in one election, so no one's calling you to ask you what you think because they don't assume that you really vote. You don't show up in the data. And that's the group of voters that got Trump, part of.
Remember the national polls at the end of the day 4 years ago were a little bit correct with their numbers, a point, half a point, yes. But the battleground states, the individual states, were completely off by 3 to 5 points, and that's where you'll see him make up his ground. But it's going to be I am still very comfortable that Trump is going to win.
If you're out of work due to coronavirus, go be a political pollster. It's one of the jobs where you can be consistently wrong every single time.
Every cycle.
And people will still ask you what you think.
So some of the battleground states, I pulled this information real quick. In Minnesota, and again, these numbers aren't very good for Trump at the moment. Minnesota, we're down by 9. In Nevada, we're within the margin of error. In New Hampshire, margin, and even Wisconsin in the margin. So we're still in the margin, but Trump is still losing by a few points in every single state. And that's why I like to show the differential. That yes, the national polls showed that Hillary was going to win and it's true, Hillary won the popular vote. But we all know, and we have to educate our Democratic friends every single cycle, is that you don't win the presidency by the popular vote. You win by the Electoral College.
We have to go through this every 4 years. We have to explain.
They like it when it's good for them.
Yeah. Oh, they love it when it's good for them.
This is why it makes sense.
Yeah.
And they have a list.
Well, and what's frightening in all of that is that they actually. They want every cycle. They want to get rid of it.
They want it. And what it does is it relegates at least half the country to being completely ignored. If the president is elected simply by the popular vote, then all presidential candidates would do is go to California, New York, Jersey, Texas, maybe Florida, and a handful of other states, and that's it.
And that's it.
Yeah. Everywhere in the middle, it wouldn't even matter. And the only reason why the Democrats want that, we know, is because those are also states that they can pretty much feel confident about.
Right now, of the 4 big states, it's 50-50.
Florida's the one. Yeah, Florida's the one.
Florida and Texas.
Well, yeah. Between
All right, guys. Well, again, thank you so much to everybody for watching The Yard Sign. Jonny Torres, your host, with us today. Chris VerKuilen, Joe Wicker, Anibal Cabrera. Again, big, heavy topics, for our first show back in a couple weeks. We, of course, have been working to get back into this studio, and so, we certainly apologize about our little hiatus there, but we're excited to be back in here in a nice, comfy studio where we can, kind of vibe off each other. Again, right there to my left, today's list of topics. We've already discussed the first 2. Now we're going to turn over to Anibal Cabrera, who's going to get us started on talking about Trump administration's wins when it comes to foreign policy in the Middle East, doing things that, haven't been seen in decades. Some might even say millennia. Anibal, give us a little bit more insight as to what's been happening over in the Middle East and with Jared's work at hand there in the Trump administration. What's it looking like?
So when it comes to the national understanding of how a president gets elected every 4 years, there's a percentage of that want to see a win when it comes to foreign policy. Before 30 days ago, there wasn't really a win of foreign policy for the president. Yes, he had moved the U.S. embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem, and that's a huge win with the Christian base and with the right. But it wasn't that big of to be as a check of foreign policy. He tried to get us out of Afghanistan, but now in the last 30 days, we've had 2 countries now say that they want to reestablish diplomatic relations with Israel, and those 2 countries are UAE and now Bahrain, that have decided to make a actual decision to move forward with diplomatic relations and economic relations, which is a huge deal. Right now, Trump has been nominated for not 1 Nobel Peace Prize, but 2 Nobel Peace Prize. 2. Yes, 2.
Is it 2 Nobel Peace Prizes, or it was the second nomination.
No, so he was nominated for the Kosovo-Serbia renewals of economic ties, and now for the peace process of the UAE and Bahrain. Over the weekend, we were able to talk to KT McFarlane.
Yep.
KT McFarlane. I cannot believe I remember that. I usually really bad with names.
Nice job.
KT McFarlane, and she said the same things we're talking about right now, that this is not just one win for the presidency when it comes to foreign policy. It is actually a domino effect of what's happening right now. Because at the moment, I'll tell you this, I will not be surprised that we don't end September without another country coming on board and actually saying that they will also recognize Israel for diplomatic relations. I see Kuwait, maybe Qatar, and all those other Sunni-leaning Arab states that will actually flip over. So we might be hearing about multiple countries moving in which is a solid a win under the foreign policy aspect when it comes to Trump, which that makes me more comfortable knowing that because of that, Trump will probably win when it comes to that. And I'm really excited. Also, with the restored peace process in Afghanistan, I think it is well timed that we get out of there and that we move on when it comes to that. I was very disappointed that a lot of Republicans, congressional Republicans, did not want that to happen. You can definitely see the war machine in DC when it came to that. But no, those are the really big foreign policy moves that are happening at the moment, and I will get off my soapbox.
Well, for those of you watching, one of the things I love talking to Joe about is about his experience, his perspective on that region of the world, because he spent some time there as a veteran. Joe, give us an idea, because again, you were at the ground level. You did have a lot of interaction with the people, in Afghanistan, and so what do you think this does for them, and what do you think? What kind of impact do you think, or will it have any impact at all on them?
Well, and it was Iraq, not Afghanistan.
Oh, sorry.
But to the Afghanistan point real quick, I think what you're seeing, Anibal, is some Republicans that are concerned about Afghanistan becoming another Iraq where you pull out too quickly, terrorist organization takes back over, Taliban take back, and it basically be a huge political loss and a huge national security loss. So I think that's what the concern is, although if you're fighting a war for 20 years, it brings up whether or not you're actually winning. So with you on that. But, the thing that we don't usually realize about the Middle East is that in the Middle East, you have the Arabs, okay, and you have the Persians, okay? The Jews are a common enemy, but a lot of that's a political issue. It's used to gin up people and whatnot. Every one of those countries know that, by and large, Israel's not going to mess with you. If you don't mess with Israel, Israel's not going to mess with you, right? And so I think what you're really seeing is the Arab states, Saudi Arabia, UAE, Bahrain, all those Arab states, they realize that Iran is a real threat.
Correct.
Israel is not a real threat to them, but Iran is. And they're a little crazy over there, okay? The Israelis are trying to do business and make money and just survive, okay? So they've chosen to align themselves and say, okay, we're going to get together, we're going to acknowledge Israel, we may even do some business with them, and that way they can kind of, give the stiff arm to Iran.
McFarlane said at the conference, and she said it was a Middle East proverb: "The enemy of my enemy is my friend," and that's a huge understanding of look, I might not like you, but I don't like Iran a lot more than me not liking Israel. And majority of these countries will get more economic benefits becoming friends with Israel than staying enemies.
Well,
go ahead. You've seen Iran putting proxies, into all these countries, and they're sick of it. They're tired of Iran trying to expand their empire and do their will, by putting these actors into their country that are basically trying to transform their government into an Iran puppet. So
the Iranians want the Persian Empire back. See, they have this idea that somehow they're gonna this empire is gonna come back, and it's not. But that's why you're talking about the proxies. They're in Yemen, they're in Syria, and so in Lebanon. And they've basically co-opted Iraq at this point because 60% of the Iraqi population is Shia, and so are the Iranians. Even though they have different nationality, they basically co-opted the Iraqi government. So they're making inroads in some of those areas in the Middle East, and the Arab countries are pushing back and realizing that Iran is a real threat.
And these tribes have been fighting for millennia. I mean, the conversations of bringing back Ishmael and Isaac, all the way back the children of Abraham, with the super split of the Jewish and the Muslim religions. This is not a simple walk in the park when it comes to border disputes. These are large, multi-generational, multifaceted problems that a lot of countries around the world have tried to step in, and they step into it, and it becomes a problem. So I think with the coronavirus, which rapidly escalated a lot of issues and caused oil prices to go shocking up and down, caused Iran to lose a lot of money when it came to the oil profits that they were having. And they've been having to pull out of Syria, having to be able to pull out of Yemen because they can't afford it anymore.
You know,
it's interesting to see how that's going to play.
I'm reminded by some of the discussions I had with Iraqi interpreters over there that spoke good English, well educated, and we would talk about some of these issues. And they're taught from a young age to hate Israel, but they don't really even know why they do. I mean, it's kind of religious, but kind of not, and they're just kind of taught that like they're bad, but it's just bigotry that they're taught. But they fully understand what the issue is with Iran, and they fully understand that Iran is an enemy, and so I think you're seeing a shift in alignment in the Middle East that is very practical and makes perfect sense if you're one of the Arab states.
Yeah, and if you don't think that we're already in a Cold War in the Middle East, then you have no idea what you're talking about.
We've been fighting Iran. I mean, we've been finding Iranian-made IEDs called explosively formed projectile EFP versions of IEDs. We've been finding those all over Iraq for years.
But now you're starting to see the cement of the coalition being built, whereas before it was spotty at some times. But now, if you're rebuilding diplomatic relations with Israel, you're definitely saying, yes, I am a part of this coalition. I'm building this coalition. Also, on this flip side, this is forcing the Palestinians to come back to the table. The Palestinians have, we've been playing this game for 30, 40 years. And it took Trump
to say no. The Palestinians get used by the Arab states. The Arab states don't really even care. They just use that issue.
And that's why I'm happy that we're actually moving this forward. You gotta move
because what is the future? If you're Saudi Arabia, what is the future of your country? To continue hating Israel for what? Israel's going to always be defended by the United States. So what are you trying to accomplish, right? They might as well give this craziness up, quit with this death to Israel stuff, and just start doing business together.
Again, the hallmark of insanity is doing the same thing over and over, and wanting to get a different result. And Trump broke the model, and that's why I think this has become a huge.
It's not even on TV. Win. You don't even hear about it.
You won't hear it.
It would be the biggest news if a Democrat was president right now, having 2 peace agreements in the Middle East, along with a continuation of the Kosovo peace deal. I mean, that would be everywhere. That would be all you would be hearing. It would be huge.
It's pretty much the only hot conflict in the world for the last decade.
Yes.
It's real success.
And it's
real
success.
End.
What I was surprised to see is once the first peace deal was signed with UAE, everyone said this is going to be a domino effect. But how fast it happened. It's been, 2 weeks now, and we have 2 more countries signing on and more in talks to occur in the next couple of weeks.
I don't.
Does it happen so fast?
Is Jared Kushner leading all this? Like, I mean, you never really hear about. I mean, you hear
it's the quiet ones.
Yeah, all you hear.
That's what we heard actually from KT McFarland over the weekend. Was Jared? Jared's the one.
All this, right?
Yeah, he's the one doing all these negotiating. Yeah. All this negotiating behind the scenes and making it happen. It's really
and they know that he's speaking. I know. He got a lot of pushback. People don't like to see nepotism, and I can appreciate that. Right? You want to be careful about having family, but what I think the left and even some in our own party may not realize is that in the Middle East, the son-in-law can speak for the father-in-law.
Yes.
You see what I'm saying? When Jared goes over to Israel or to the Middle East, they understand that he's speaking with the ear of the President of the United States, and so he has the authority to do that.
And technically, he wasn't a fresh face. He's had relations with these prime ministers and these royal families for a really long time. Yeah. I don't want to know why he has relations with them, but he has business. But that's exactly, and that's how
his family
works.
were all. Yeah, come on, they're all billionaires marrying each other.
I'm not going to say these things. I don't think he's a billionaire.
I think his family. Yeah, they're real estate too. They're in real estate too.
Well, I have a comma in my bank account.
I'm telling you, watch Ivanka and Jared. I mean, I'm telling you, watch that.
I can't wait to see what's going to happen.
Ivanka, man, they are just crisp. I mean, when you see them on TV and everything, watch them. I'm telling you, Ivanka's not going.
So real quick, Hector has a question. What are our thoughts between India and China facing off in the Tibetan border? I honestly think this is just another skirmish just to cause panic within the India-Chinese borders. I don't think anything will really come of it because they both cannot attack each other.
Yeah.
They can literally, they're not even allowed to shoot a gun in the border area through the treaty. They have to use their fist. And the fact that I think 30 Chinese military members got killed by falling off cliffs and by rock impalements is insane of how the Indian army is thugs when it comes to how they fight back. So I
would love
it.
to see that.
Oh yeah, no cameras either, which is bollocks. But still, it would be so cool to see that happen.
Well, communist countries, okay, that you do business with, and I think we're looking back and questioning whether we should have ever done business with them. But communist countries, as you do business with them, they get wealthy, and as they become wealthy, they spend their money on guns, on arms, on their military. And the more money they have, the more military equipment they have, and because they're communists, and that's how communists behave, they start encroaching on their neighbors. And that's what you see, whether it be in the sea, in that China Sea area, where they're just taking over islands and claiming it's theirs, to what you're talking about in India. It's what you can expect with communists.
And we're going to keep on seeing that for a while.
That's why the United States foreign policy is really shifting towards the Pacific. I mean, everybody's still focusing on the Middle East. The United States military has focused its attention and resources really in the Pacific.
And it needs to continue.
Yeah.
If we can, again, the limit of Chinese power on the water is to the first ring of the archipelagos. And as long as they can stay in there, it's never going to go any further. And they're actually pissing off Japan and Indonesia, which are now forcing those countries to beef up their security. I love it. Let them start policing themselves.
Do you think we start economically dissociating from them?
With China?
Yeah.
I would love to see a reduction and a spreading of our resources to other countries. It is difficult.
Well, didn't Trump recently sign, I don't know if it was a bill, because I don't think any legislation is getting done. I think it was an executive order that took some action on, you know how from a national security standpoint, for instance, right? Like some of these manufacturers, Boeing and whatnot, there are certain things that when they're making parts for military equipment, it has to be made domestically.
Correct.
Because there's security issues there, security clearance issues there. I think that Trump did something along that line for the supply chain on medications and some types of equipment. Yes. Yeah. So I think there were certain, whatever it's on a list of considered to be like critical types of meds and equipment and whatnot. I think he's done something on that already, and we're pulling back from China where, not that you can't buy it from them, but like some kind of percentage or whatever of the supply chain in the United States.
That was one person that had with the COVID response.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because we realized, holy crap, 98% of our antibiotics come from China. That might be a problem.
Well, at the end of the day, we shouldn't be doing any business that has concentration camps. So there is a whole nother topic that we do.
We
not
say
have
never
time for.
again,
know,
and then we say never
it.
again, and then everybody just looks over it like it's not happening.
Well, who else is going to?
They've got 1 million Muslims, I think, in concentration camps.
What other company is going to allow children to sew Nike T-shirts and everything else apart? It's absolutely ridiculous.
Which that's the other hypocrisy. All these companies that try to put forth all this virtue signaling and social responsibility. You are doing business with somebody who has a bunch of people simply by the basis of their religion in a concentration camp.
No, but it's perfectly fine. I mean, screw Hong Kong. The NBA sold their soul basically to China, and they're perfectly fine with it. Whatever.
Well, because it's become such a huge market for them. I mean, we're talking about 1 billion people. Yeah. So, and that's all the NBA cares about, and it's when it comes to this racial injustice stuff. I mean, again, would they be having these demonstrations that they are doing before, after, during each of the games, the name changes on the jersey, all that stuff? If the majority of the players weren't African American, no, I doubt it. I mean, you certainly don't see that in other sports where that's not the case. I mean, that's going down a rabbit hole. But again, NBA, all they care about is their bottom line, and that goes for Nike as well.
Well, the American people sometimes, and I get wrapped up in this, I like college football, okay? That's my thing. It's not as much of a business, but it's still a business.
Oh, yeah.
People forget, these sports teams, they are corporations. It's private companies, okay? And that's what they're there to do, is to make money.
Yeah, but by them being private companies, the public is allowed to influence that. And the whole go woke, go broke has been something that people are seeing all across the country with multiple businesses. And I agree. Let's see. I really hope
I have a buddy of mine that says, who got Jerry, what's his name, the owner of the Cowboys?
Jones.
Jones, yeah. I have a buddy of mine said, who had enough money to get Jerry Jones to take a knee? All right? who got that man to take a knee?
Well, I never thought I'd see it, but the NHL has started to go woke, and my friends, all of my friends who are hockey fans, are pissed off. One of my best friends, who's a diehard Capitals fan, will not watch the playoffs right now. Not because the Capitals aren't in it, but because he refuses to watch hockey now because of what they've done, and it's antithetical to a lot of people who watch hockey's belief system. So yeah, it's not good for the ratings.
I'm not going to stop watching sports per se because of a political stance. But here's the problem. I'm just trying to watch football. Yeah. I mean, if I keep getting interrupted,
not allowed.
If I keep getting interrupted with all this garbage, then it's not fun anymore.
Well, especially for us, where we watch politics, we follow
love
the issues in our community, in the state, in the federal government.
Yeah.
Like, we're already consuming so much of this, and for us, sports is our break from that. And then to have that infiltrated, by these issues, again, it completely removes the whole reason of why we watch sports in the first place, which is entertainment.
Agreed.
Yeah, it wears me down.
Yeah, we all probably have a circle of friends that we're like the political guy. Everybody knows that we're that guy, and they can talk politics with us or come to us and ask us how to vote. But all the other time, for every other 4 years,
it's like a secret.
Yeah, they come ask you who to vote for. But other than that, I don't want to talk politics. With Joe.
The guy gets unfollowed on Facebook by all of his friends.
But I mean, so it just goes to show though, we love politics. I have no problem talking politics, but I'm trying to watch football.
Yeah. Exactly.
I'm just trying to watch my game.
No, I'm trying to walk through church without getting stopped and who should I be voting for school board? It's insane nowadays.
All right, guys. Well, thank you so much. It is the Yard Sign. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Make sure you like, follow, share the show. Also, don't forget, you can subscribe to the audio version of our podcast on the Apple, Spotify, and Google platforms. We are having a great show today. Again, we took about a 2-week break, but it kind of helped us kind of reset. And again, now we are more excited than ever to be coming to you from our brand new studios here at Bake More Pies. Thank you to Cords and the team for their support in giving us this beautiful studio as a platform.
Also, we apologize for all of our haters coming here now because we've got an anti-fan club of sorts.
That's true. Yeah, I know. Well, good thing there's the parking lot's fenced in. So
work on security.
We've talked about some very big issues, but we're going to bring it home here to the state of Florida one more time before we wrap up tonight, and that is Florida's reopening. The governor already hinting, talking about letting the bars reopen. I mean, we've seen some other businesses kind of slowly begin to reopen, movie theaters and that sort of thing, which I still don't even know which ones are open and which ones are closed. But now with bars being reopened, and we obviously saw a lot of bars skirting the lockdown, by trying to serve food. I mean, I still think it's going to be a slow recovery. I mean, nationally, we may be seeing a V-shaped recovery, but I think here in the state, it's going to be a slow comeback. What do you guys think?
So, real quick, there were a lot of restaurants, or a lot of bars that have been open this entire time.
Oh, yeah.
I have no idea how they got away with it.
How is this happening?
I've seen restaurants with, they stole the hot dog makers from, gas stations and put it in the back of the bar. And now they have chips and they have different stuff and,
here's some peanuts. Yeah. You've now had a meal. Oh, here's some.
Oh, yeah. There are some bars that definitely took full advantage of it.
Yeah.
But, also, kind of responsibly, they moved tables so that you couldn't just blanket the whole bar. You had to sit down. I think Bonefish has done a great job with this. Some of the other big restaurants and the chains in our area have done a good job. A lot of mom and pop shops have been super struggling. But as an individual, we've been trying to just go to them and do takeout. But I think this will increase There are a lot of bars that are just not open. They have, I think 50%, 60% of Ybor City in Tampa, which is our like major club area, bar area, have yet to reopen. So it'd be fascinating to see what this looks like now that they can kind of start to get to normal, and if they'll actually abide by the 50%.
Is there going to be another spike? I mean, you know what's going to happen in 2-3 weeks, right? You know what's coming. The media is going to latch on that. This is right. This is not, I mean, I want the bars to open. My heart goes out to business owners. As a small business owner myself, this has just been insane and crazy. But at the same time, look what's going to happen politically. They're going to open the bars this weekend. It opens Monday, right? Or no?
I thought it was this Monday.
No, it was yesterday.
I thought it was today.
It was today. That's right. It's today. Bars are open today. So bars are open. You're going to get 3 weeks down the road, and what's going to happen? You're going to have this shit, and the media is going to hit TV with it, and it's going to be Trump's fault.
They've done it every single time, regardless of what has happened.
I know.
They ignore things like BLM protests with 50,000 people there. It's incredible how these things can be made to correlate. So I saw this graph over the weekend regarded France's mandatory masking. And I have another point about
I saw that.
Lockdown versus not lockdown. So you have this mandatory masking. It was put in place at one of their low points, like after the big spike, their low point. Then it began to spike again, and then this is case in point. The deaths were still low, but the cases got higher with mandatory masking in France, and we still have people pushing this idea that mandatory masking is the be all end all, and it's
people don't know what else to do.
30% at most.
People don't know what else
the
to do.
stats from places that mandatory mask versus places that don't. The same thing happened in both places. The masks didn't help by and large.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll share, so when you look at places that have lockdowns, like California, places like New Jersey, New York, those lockdowns also, you see the same kind of figures. You see the lockdowns happen and the cases still increase. So what you're doing is you're hurting your economy at the same time as, these lockdowns are not doing anything. You're hurting your economy for nothing. So places like Florida, we had the same pattern, a similar pattern of cases and deaths, but we didn't hurt ourselves economically. We didn't shoot ourselves in the foot,
So let me go over just a couple numbers, because I know we're going to be wrapping it up here soon. So the number of deaths that we've had in Florida recently, and I'm going off of Florida Department of Health website here that I get daily updates here.
Not seeing
so. No, not seeing that. So in Florida, roughly 12,642 of those. A little over 5,000 of those actually occurred in your nursing homes, long-term care facilities. Okay, yeah. So that's that, which makes sense. But thankfully, the governor didn't do what they did in New York, which was send everybody with positive tests because it would have been even worse.
The biggest cover-up so far.
Yeah,
the biggest cover-up.
Yeah, the facilities have done a really great job. Some of them have COVID wings. Other you can't even get in because nobody there has it. But also the fact that there's been a 75% decrease in the average number of reported COVID-19 related deaths just in the last week from July to the last week in August. So I mean the deaths are cratering in a positive way, right?
Yeah.
It's going down big time. And the last number is that the percentage of positive results. Remember when it was like 10% of all tests were positive, or other times 16%, 20%, right? And I remember Dr. Birx on TV saying, yeah, you want to see about 10%. What that was showing them was that they were testing enough, right? Well, now the percent of positive results are 3.91 to 6.67% over the past 2 weeks. And this last week, it was 3.91%. So, I mean, they're testing 100 people to find a little less than 4 that are actually positive.
I was expecting the numbers to increase a little bit because we are now in week 2 or week 3 of schools being open in Hillsborough County.
Right.
So I was expecting some kind of bump up. And I think last time I saw about 1,200 students and faculty had been sent home because of positive cases the attempt of positive cases.
For a while, everybody was testing just to test, right? Mm. And I think we kind of got through that. People realized, okay, maybe this doesn't make sense, right? Maybe I don't need to go sit in a drive-thru for no reason. And I don't even feel sick, so why am I going through a drive-thru? And then, of course, people started leaving the line, and then the test results would come to you and say you're COVID positive, and they'd be like, but I didn't even test, I left. Yeah. So all that happened.
Just I think a default.
Yeah. So now I think you're seeing that kind of that type of testing leveling out. So you don't have as many people going to get those tests.
People are still testing. Like even myself, I've tested multiple times. My wife is a school teacher. She's tested multiple times as well.
We know most kids are not. I mean, we know most kids are not even going to have symptoms.
But that's the reason why I think when it comes to the education, school systems, and everything else, that calling around, closing down classrooms when someone is positive is the best thing to do. Making sure kids and teachers are not being affected or being infected at a higher rate. Again, the fact that we are aware of it and we're taking the steps necessary to make sure our kids are safe, our teachers are safe, that's an important thing.
Yeah, now, I did think that. How long has school been open?
It's
2 weeks?
This is the second week, but third week in the calendar. Because remember, the first week they had it.
See, I think
we haven't seen the media stories yet, which is surprising.
I think you've got another.
That's how you know it's working because you haven't seen it.
I think you've got another week or two before you really see.
Yeah, if there's a big effect. Yeah, I agree with that.
You might have some schools shut down in a couple of weeks.
No, there have been already classrooms and schools already shut down.
Well, and the interesting thing or the amusing thing, when it comes to talking about the protests, that have taken place and the effect that that's had on the coronavirus. I mean, I got into a lengthy discussion, as of course always happens on Facebook. And
was this today?
No, this was like a week or two ago.
Okay.
Despite showing them because this woman specifically was from LA. Right. And she says, no, the protests, even here in LA, with as many people as we have, it didn't have an effect on the coronavirus. It didn't spread the virus. And I literally took the screenshot from the LA County Health Department, and it shows that following 2 weeks after George Floyd's incident with the police, which, again, protests followed immediately thereafter, there's literally a spike that then trends for the following month and a half in LA County. But no, those are the homeless people. Those are people that were out of state. Those are the farm workers. They want to blame everybody else except the protesters, and it's absolutely ridiculous when they're like, well, 80% of us were wearing our masks. Well, guess what? All it takes is that 20% to infect everybody else, and they had a huge surge in both cases and deaths, and they still want to deny that the protests had anything to do with it.
Why didn't we just have bar owners hand out masks and just have? I know it's stupid because you're trying to drink a bar, but
retail stores.
Why didn't they just do that? Why wasn't that enough? If masks are going to work, why are we shutting down?
I understand the reasoning for the shutting down of movie theaters and of bars and comedy places, because you're going there and the purpose is you have your mask off the whole time because you're socializing and everything else. Reason why clubs are not open. I get it. I understand it. I don't agree with it.
I like that meme, right? I like that meme. The dumbest thing I've ever done in my life is walk into a restaurant and go 10 feet with a mask on, only to take it off when I sit down. And I've done a lot of dumb things in my life.
It's one of the
That's
stupid.
like the dumbest thing.
Really bad.
No, you got to love the one that I saw today, which was this.
You're standing up.
It's a guy. No, it's a guy standing up with the mask. Yeah, I think you might have saw me share it. And then the person sitting down without the mask, but the virus is just going right over them because they're sitting down at the restaurant.
So the virus goes over your head if you're sitting down.
Masks have become almost like a comfort for other people. And that's the problem. It's that conditioning that society has allowed us to feel that we're safer because we're wearing a mask. It's like the whole dog and pony show at the airport when it comes to all the TSA and everything else. That's not stopping anything. If you go into and read the reports of how many things are allowed to go
it's
through.
Safety theater. It's safety theater.
That's all it is.
Most of what we're doing, honestly, is safety theater.
So until the public feels more confident, I'm so happy to hear that Florida's numbers are down to 3% and everything else. I know Hillsborough County had just gone under 5%.
Florida flattened the curve.
The thing is that it needs to take time for people to feel comfortable, a treatment, and I doubt a cure, but some form of vaccine needs to come out. And once it does, people feel even more comfortable.
It's supposed to be out in November.
It's coming.
I thought November 2nd, right?
No. Pfizer actually released information today that said they were going to have a vaccine that's going to have data that'll allow for approval.
October. They said by the end of October they'll be done with the big
It'll be on the regulators after that.
For the amount of billions of dollars that we have spent on research, I'm very happy to see that it's moving as quickly as it has.
Well, also what this shows is that, hey, after all this is over, the FDA and all these government organizations can't justify all these regulations because, hey, when it came down to it, all of a sudden we were able to get it done.
Well, and I can assure
but they're still doing testing.
So why does it take 10 years? I mean, seriously, it takes billions of dollars and decades sometimes for the scientific community to get a vaccine through. And that's not all because of their work. It's because of the regulatory environment.
No, I'm going to push back, and the
With
only reason,
drugs
but the only
and
reason why I say I
vaccines and
push back
everything
is
else.
because yes, I do get what you're saying, but when you have every single research facility in the world looking for the same vaccine and same data points when it comes to genealogy and DNA, you're going to get a faster result. When you allocate $100 million for one,
you're going to tell me
allocate $100 billion, and for a few million people doing research, you're going to get a faster
but you're going to tell me there aren't laboratories and companies all over the world researching cancer?
There are.
Exactly.
But you know this already, that cancer is a very unique, per person, it's a very unique DNA, that piece that has been corrupted.
We don't have time to do it
we're
here,
not going to get into that.
But you can look at, you can look at all of the vaccines that have ever been created. I think rotavirus was 4 years or something like that. But you look at how long it took them to get the flu vaccine. Okay.
Yeah.
Look at how long it took to research certain types of vaccines and produce them and safely and all that, and get through the government regulation, which I understand some of that is to make sure that you're introducing a safe vaccine. I get it.
And they're doing that now. The trials are happening now to make sure it's safe.
The point is, it's not just technology that's allowing us to get a vaccine out in 24 months. That ain't the case, or 18 months. It is not technology. It's government. When government gets out of the way, the private sector can get stuff done.
Right. Yeah. When you talk about healthcare costing too much and healthcare being a serious unaffordability issue, get the government out of the way, and we'll solve a lot of the problems. You don't have to have subsidized health insurance.
Whenever a bureaucrat is questioned, whenever the government and the bureaucrats are questioned about why do we need these regulations, when I as a business owner say, why do I need to do that? Because I'm in healthcare as a home health agency owner. They'll ultimately say, well, that's for patient safety. Okay, so if all these regulations are there for patient safety, and now all of a sudden they're lifting all these regulations, then either the vaccine potentially isn't safe and you're letting it go, or those regulations weren't necessary to begin with. Now, which one is it?
I think it's a combination of all of it. I really do want there to be a level of regulation in regards to pharmaceuticals and medical supplies and everything to ensure that what happens in other countries, and we all know what happens in other countries with their medicals and their pharmaceuticals, that you can't trust. I would never trust a bottle that says Advil or whatever painkiller from another country, because I don't trust that. But I do trust it when I go to my drugstore around my neighborhood.
But also,
I know
people
it's been
complain about
enough.
the cost of drugs. Well, if you want the cost of drugs to go down and you don't want companies to demand to have a 20-year patent, don't force them to spend $7 billion in 10 years developing a drug.
And I think there's a way that we can meet in the middle in these conversations. I agree it shouldn't take 10 years, but I also don't agree it should take 2 months.
Well, but I'll say this on the vaccine, and I have no problem with vaccines, but there's no way in hell I'm taking a COVID vaccine that's been developed in less than a year. No. It would probably take at least 2 or 3 years for me to even consider taking a COVID vaccine at this point.
But that's your choice, and at the end of the day, everyone needs to make that
Jonny
individual
brings up the
choice.
point that a lot of people have. A lot of people are sitting back and saying, well, wait a minute now. My whole life, no one could get stuff like this done in any time like this at all. And now all of a sudden you're telling me you have a solution in 18
When was the
months?
last time in your lifetime that we had a situation when it came to a virus that shut down the entire globe?
Well, we've never done this for things that killed more people. We've never done this.
I agree with. And the fact that society wants something done quickly, the government is going to break its own rules to get it done.
And I'm like Jonny, I'm not saying I'm not being anti-vaccine. I'm simply pointing out the fact that polio was a big deal. People didn't want kids getting polio and dying from polio because you have to go into iron lung. We don't even understand what polio is because it's been gone for so long now. But a lot of people were terrified of that. We used to have kids that would go end up being deaf. You don't see a lot of deaf kids anymore, and the reason why is because they're not getting, I think it's measles or mumps. I forget which one of the ones that they would get. But now you have the MMR and the DTaP and pertussis and all these different things. The whooping cough, pertussis, that kills kids, little kids. All these vaccines were necessary, and it still took the government decades and billions of dollars for the private industries to come up with this stuff. And now all of a sudden we can pump one out in 18 months. I'm not saying I'm against it, but I am saying that I'm not going to knock people for having questions.
I think I think what we need to understand that this was unprecedented times, unprecedented amount of money, and the
money's
amount
flowing like it ain't nothing.
and the amount of research facilities that did what needed to get done to ensure that we got something in the books is what was different. And people want something. Do I think I should get it as one of the first rounds? No, because I'm not a healthcare worker. I'm not in the line of fire when it comes to getting exposed. So the fact that I won't even probably have a choice to get a test or not, or a vaccine anytime soon, because I'm not one of those groups of people that will be the first ones to even be allowed to get it.
We just need Rand Paul to be a part of this. That's Rand Paul needs to be a big part of that conversation.
So if he gets the shot first, you'll be perfectly okay with getting it.
No.
Well, I would just.
He seems like the type that would. He seems like the type that would take the vaccine like right away.
What? I'll take my chances with the 99.99%.
Well, Rand Paul's against compulsory actions of the guy. Compulsory.
Right.
So I would look to Rand Paul to see what he's saying about it.
I don't think I've heard anything.
He's an ophthalmologist. I mean, I'm not saying that he's not a virologist or
right.
Anything. I mean,
he's more of a doctor. Than we are.
But he's more of a doctor than I am. So, all
right. Well, we're about 10 over. So again, thank you to everybody for watching the Yard Sign. We hope you're enjoying our new studios here at Bake More Pies. Thank you again to Cords for allowing us to come back into the facility after, again, they didn't just remodel the studio. They literally built an entirely new podcast studio. It's state of the art. It's absolutely amazing. And so if you want to do your own podcast, feel free to reach out to us and we'll get you in touch with Bake More Pies. Those were our topics for today over here.
Democrats.
Yeah. And Democrats,
over on the, sure, why not? We'll take their money. You have our topics there for today's show on the left, but guys, this is kind of a newer way that I like to wrap up the show. Tell us the one story we didn't get to today that you guys are watching.
Anibal.
Okay. So what I forced myself to watch was the interview with Andrew Gillum, and I thought that I was dying laughing the entire time because I couldn't stop laughing because of the amount of lies or lying to himself or lying to others that was done to try to figure out his comeback to politics and back to society. I wish that family all the best. I wish him all the best. I hope he gets the help that he needs when it comes to drinking and probably even in depression.
Drugs.
And I wasn't going to say that.
Why not?
But I hope that
he was literally caught on the bathroom floor with meth.
Hope that he gets the help.
He didn't inhale. He didn't inject. He
needs help.
He didn't snort.
He didn't.
Look, let me tell you.
Does he keep the dress? Or the shorts of the guy?
Let me tell you, bisexuality is the least of his problems. The fact that he came out and tried to make that the story.
But make no mistake. That interview was the beginning of his attempt to relaunch a political career.
Oh, sure.
Wiener can't come back, then I don't think Gillum can. But I agree with you. The bisexuality thing was not even an issue on my hand, and he pushed that so hard. He kept on bringing it back.
Of course.
And I was like, dude, you don't even know who you're talking about because you're trying to make your sexuality the issue. It's not the issue. You got caught in a hotel room with prostitutes.
Almost governor of the state. Imagine that party would have been happening in the governor's mansion.
50,000 votes.
Joe, not only that, but imagine him having to give back all John Morgan's millions.
No, we know exactly where the millions went. It went up his nose. That's what happened. That's true.
All right, Joe Wicker.
I want to see what's going to happen with the presidential debates. Joe Rogan. 4 hours.
I hope that happens.
The president has put out the challenge, the modern day duel. Do a 4-hour debate. Joe Rogan is the moderator.
And I hope he does it UFC style too.
Yeah.
In an octagon. In an octagon.
And see what happens.
With the left hook.
Yeah. Obviously, Biden is not going to do that. But when the debate does happen, just like the ones with Hillary, they're going to be watched. It's going to be 50 million viewers on Super Bowl
I would
level.
love to see Joe Biden, not Joe Biden. I would love to see Joe Rogan interview Trump. I don't think he's going to do individual interviews because he's trying to be as nonpartisan as possible.
Trump's not a good interviewer, man.
Oh my God.
No, that's not true. Did you see the Barstool Sports interview?
It was really good.
Which one?
Barstool Sports.
Oh, I saw part of that.
Yeah,
one.
you got it.
It was
Yeah,
it was really
I
good.
saw part of it. He did good on that.
Trump-
but how did he bomb on the other? How did he bomb with that other one? So
Because you
bad?
have other people trying to get him, whereas
Well-
you have one of the other ones. They want information.
Yeah.
They don't care about
Right.
the
not
gotcha
gotcha.
questions.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They just want
Yeah.
information.
Joe Rogan would be devastating for Joe Biden.
Yes.
Devastating.
Yeah.
And he will not agree. Joe Biden is not going to do it.
No.
And of course, the media is not going to cover it. And actually, I'm
But
concerned.
but is there
concerned that-
anybody more impartial,
I know,
honestly,
but
than
no,
Joe
right.
Rogan?
No.
I'm concerned that there's not going to be any debate at all.
Ooh.
That's my real concern.
If Joe Biden does that, he loses. If he does not debate the president, he loses.
It goes.
And then the only way Joe Biden can stand on the stage and debate Trump is completely scripted. It has to be. Remember Hillary
he'll
Clinton?
fall apart.
Remember
Yeah.
Hillary Clinton got some questions given to her? Joe Biden has to have the whole freaking thing. He has to have Trump's responses given to him.
If they
All right, VerKuilen. I
All
see
right.
you over there playing on your phone. Tell your girlfriend to stop messaging you.
No. Actually, I just wanted
fiance.
to. So I was listening to the Hillsborough school board meeting the other day, and
Oh, yeah, it's a
I
good
remember Lynn Gray was trying to implement affirmative action into the teachers' hiring, the administrator hiring, the staff hiring for Hillsborough, and something to do with affirmative action or racial justice for Hillsborough County schools.
Doesn't that already exist?
No, not in Hillsborough.
Hillsborough doesn't have. Oh.
Yeah, so Hillsborough, that's the thing that they're trying to implement. I thought that was incredibly harmful. I think that hiring people based on their merits as opposed to their race is of the greatest benefit to students. I don't think that having someone who has the same skin color you in front of your classroom is going to enhance your ability to operate in, adult life. They also had
That's a good one.
That's a good one.
That's interesting.
Yeah, they had a need to state they wanted to add verbiage to the anti-harassment policy to encompass LGBT peoples when the policy encompasses everybody, all
Right.
kinds of harassment. They wanted to add it as a feel-good measure.
It's like hate crime law.
yeah.
I mean, that's what I always equate it to. It's hate crime law.
That
I
was
mean, a
one-
crime is a crime.
Yeah,
So
yeah. Murder's
you know,
murder.
Yeah. So
Yeah, it's
why
already-
does one hate crime and the other one isn't?
It's already encompassed in the verbiage of the policies within Hillsborough County schools, but the fact that they're trying to do this before an election, and what I found was really funny is there's more than a handful of left-leaning people on that school board, and even they didn't want to touch it before the election because that's what's happening soon. And they don't want the controversy before they get voted on.
Yeah.
So I thought it was really funny to see people like
When she lost the primary, didn't she? Or no, she's in a runoff.
She's in a
She's in
She's in a
Yeah.
runoff. Okay.
Yeah, the school board races are fascinating to see how that's going to shake up at the end of the day. But I agree with you.
I love seeing Steve Kona push back on all this stuff. That guy's he belongs in the school board. I hope he gets back in, and by all means, if you can support him, get on his campaign.
I mean, look, in all fairness, he was working hard. I mean, he was one of the hardest working candidates out there. And for it to have kind of shaken out the way it did on primary night didn't make any sense to me. But I think, as a lot of teachers and parents have said, I think it was that last minute decision to go against parents' wishes that really turned the electorate on him. And again,
others.
it's tough. You serve the parents of this county. You don't serve the teachers and the administrators. And I think that's where they went wrong.
And you could see the palpable change in the voting after his vote and others' votes. That you saw none of them won their primaries. They all got they're all now in runoffs, but none of them won. No sitting school board member had the majority votes, and so they all got into runoffs. So I think
they're
that's
all in runoffs.
Yeah,
right?
so all
Which
those.
the vote. Hey, I'm gonna tell you, when things go bad and people show up, somebody getting fired.
I just want them. I know.
When the voters show up, somebody's getting fired.
I just want them to get air conditioning back into some classrooms. It's
One more thing
ridiculous.
about Hillsborough County schools.
Whoa!
they're also-
You're telling me we don't have any air conditioning? Didn't we just get taxed for that?
Girl, you have no idea.
They also
Well, now they're blaming COVID. They're blaming COVID because they were counting on all these millions of dollars, which, by the way,
Okay.
I mean, was not only spent on air conditioning units for some schools, but they also got fancy new playgrounds. They also got electric vehicles at some of their driver's ed classes.
New
Again, take care of issue number 1, air conditioning units. That's it. That was your one. That was your job. You had one job, and it was air conditioning units, and they screwed it up.
One job.
I told people that supported that tax. I told them. I said, "Watch."
Of course.
I said, "Watch."
It was a
Always
slush
take
fund.
care of the small
Said
stuff. So
watch.
there's always a big
Always.
issue to take care of. They can,
They can keep on fighting for it.
If
Yeah.
you don't support it, you want kids to
One
just
last thing about Hillsborough
shrivel
County
up and
Schools,
die.
they are trying to implement.
Let's go. Let's wrap it up, boys.
Diversionary action as far as student misbehavior. So that's what led to Stoneman Douglas, the Parkland shooting. That's happening now in the school board. Make sure you voice to your school members. You want kids to be punished for their doing bad stuff.
Yep.
Keeps them from doing bad stuff and keeps them from being, unruly, antisocial in the future. So.
So wait, Laura Williford was commenting on here saying, "Tell us more about this." I think she's talking about the schools, but I think we about covered it.
over.
We're pretty much we're over.
Well, thanks for watching,
another-
Laura. Hopefully, you'll catch us next time.
We'll send you a link to the meeting.
It's every.
It was a good meeting.
That's right. It's every Monday, 7 o'clock. The Yard Sign. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Don't forget the podcast version. It's going to be updated later tonight, tomorrow, on Apple, Spotify, and Google podcast platforms. The YouTube episode will also be up later tonight, so keep an eye open for that. Thank you so much, everybody, for watching. Thank you so much to Chris VerKuilen, Joe Wicker, and Anibal Cabrera for doing an amazing job on tonight's show. I'm Jonny Torres from the Bake More Pie Studios in Tampa, Florida. Have a great night. Thank you.